My name is Judd Ewell. Welcome to the next generation of Sage estimating and 2D integrated takeoff. Sage has an estimating product suite that's composed of eTakeoff Dimension, eTakeoff Bridge, and Sage Estimating. Together, these three products provide an integrated, seamless, and dynamic estimating experience that will help you create more estimates and create them more accurately than ever before. We're going to look at several things today. We're going to review Sage's best-in-class approach to estimating. We're going to look at eTakeoff Dimension and Bridge, and we're also going to spend some time in Sage Estimating version 18.12. Sage's next generation focuses on two things. You're going to get information for your estimates either from a model or from a set of plans. You're going to take those into one of these three solutions, and these are best-in-class solutions that most people use. Navisworks or Assemble from a model and eTakeoff Dimension for a 2D plan set. These are what most people use to get information out of and work with the information in these takeoff sources. We're going to take the information from those products and bring them into eTakeoff Bridge. Bridge is then going to provide us a way to transfer that information or directly bridge that information into Sage Estimating. Also, Bridge will provide us a way to not only put information into Sage Estimating, but also drill down from estimating back through Bridge and into the actual takeoff source to see where a measurement came from and to see what we entered when we were originally creating that measurement. So let's see what that looks like. This is the eTakeoff Dimension. As you can see in the middle, I have my plan set, and over on the left, I have my drawing list and a list of traces. Creating a project in eTakeoff Dimension is pretty simple. I just bring up Windows Explorer here. I go to a folder where I have all my eTakeoff projects, and I create a new folder. And in that folder, I put my either subfolders or actually put my individual sheets or one file with all my sheets in it. Either way, eTakeoff doesn't care. But I'm basically just uploading files into a folder. Very simple, very quick. No file conversion required. All plans are, eTakeoff reads PDF files directly, and so we're able to start doing takeoff very quickly once we get those plans. So you simply download your plans, create a folder, put the drawings in the folder, and you're ready to go. Here I am in a project already created. Like I've mentioned on the left, there's my plan sheet, my plan set with the different sheets in it. Up above here are traces. Traces are measurements. I have different measurements in different folders that I've organized them in, and you can see that I've got many, many different traces here. If you're familiar with using other products, you may know these as conditions. Traces are very similar. They just have more to them than a standard condition does. And so as I work through here, we'll look at how these traces work. Here's the site plan with some traces on it. And you can see I've got asphalt paving by sub. To create this trace of all the asphalt, all I did was double click on this and start tracing around the outline of the area. I also have curbing in here. And you can, if I zoom in here, you can see this other line here, that's the curbing. I did the same thing. I just double clicked on the curb trace and started tracing the outline of the curb. And also for the sidewalks here in brown. As I'm doing this, it's creating this legend for me, and I can certainly send this off to others if I need to for their input and expertise as well. Let's go to the first floor here as well. Next. Here I've got the interior walls and exterior walls. You can see the summary here in the middle. And if I was to click on this interior wall trace, you can see I've got all of them are part of one trace. And over here on the right, I have the quantity list. And in that quantity list, you'll see a bunch of questions, and such as the height of the wall and the stud spacing and the stud size and the gauge and all of those. Those are questions that are coming from a Sage assembly. And so we are entering not only measurement information, but assembly detail and spec-related information right here in Takeoff. This is part of the seamless integration that we have with Sage Estimating. It starts right here in Takeoff. So we can enter in this kind of information right here in Takeoff while we're doing the measurement. We can also enter in work breakdown information as well, such as whether this is a base bid or an alternate, who did the work, who the estimator is, or which floor is it on. Then when we get to Sage Estimating, we'll be able to use these work breakdowns to sort our estimate in different ways so that we can slice and dice it any way we want based on these WBS codes. So we're entering all kinds of information here directly on Takeoff. What I want to do is show you how you can do a little bit of Takeoff here. So if I zoom in right here nice and tight, you can see that I've got a piece of wall that I haven't done Takeoff on right through here. To do Takeoff on that, I'm going to go over here to the traces on the left, and I'm going to say that I want to do interior wall Takeoff. So I'm just going to double click on that, and I am going to start here, and I'm just going to trace around this wall just like this, and then go all the way down to that one. I can come over here. If this was a specific kind of wall, I could say, well, this one's only, this one's only a 4-foot wall. Or the stud spacing is 24 inches. And that would be fine. I can make those kinds of changes. That's going to be an 8-foot wall, so I'm going to go back here and change that back again to 8 feet. But you can see that we can enter in that kind of information as we're going along. This is the base bid, it's the first floor, and I'm the estimator. Creating traces is quick and easy. You can be up and running just in a couple hours. It's easy to create the traces, and then from those traces you can push directly into Sage Estimating, which I'll show you in a little while. On the second floor, I have a bunch of different flooring types here, not only carpet, but quarry tile and resilient tile and resinous floor coating. Also have some door counts done as well. What I wanted to show you here is a couple things. If I click off some layers up here in the upper left-hand corner, you can see that I have the resilient tile here in these bathrooms. If I click on that, you'll see that I have a resilient tile as an alternate. I can click that off and click on the quarry tile. We can see that that is alternate number 2. So I'm assigning alternates here as I'm doing Takeoff, not later on when I've already got everything all taken off. I'm doing that right here. Another thing that I can do, look at the third floor plan. You'll see that it's an identical copy of the second floor. So what I'm going to do, rather than retake off all those items, I'm just going to select all the second floor, and I'm going to drag them over here to Project Favorites. From here, I'm going to go to the third floor. I'm going to take those measurements, and I'm going to drag them back. And I've almost completed my takeoff. I'm going to select them all here, and I'm going to change the floor because this is now the third floor. My takeoff is done. So if you copy anything, I've copied a whole floor's worth of information. You could copy a piece of a floor or part of something that is repeated throughout your estimate and copy it to another area where so you don't have to repeat yourself a lot. I've got takeoff done on the roof plan. I've also taken some exterior elevation information off so you can do takeoff not only on plans but on elevations or whatever you want to take off. I can take off on the foundation plan. Here I've got structural slabs, grade beams, footings, and caissons. These caissons, these red dots here, were found using, I'm going to turn those off, they were found using a feature called pattern search. And pattern search is a patented feature in eTakeoff that searches for a pattern. In this case, I told it to look for this dashed circle. It went through and found that dashed circle and assigned the count of caissons to each one of those. So I counted 244 caissons, you can see over here in the measurement summary, and I counted them just in a few minutes. Very quick and very accurate. Pattern search can look not only for something like a dashed circle, but a piece of text or anything else that is a common symbol or something like that where you can search for it in the plans. Let's go down here to the plumbing plan. I just put a square footage in here so that I can have a plugged number for plumbing on the first, second, and third floor. You see those here. I'll get to that more when we look at the actual estimate. If I look at the electrical plan, I've got the power plan here, and I used pattern search to search for these BB1s and AA light types. Very, very quick to do that. Pattern search is great for finding light fixtures, switches, receptacles, other things like that as well. I went to the first floor and did an area just to get a plug number for this particular estimate. Did the same thing on the second, third floor and the roof plan. Here on the interior elevations, I have a couple things I want to show you. You'll notice if I zoom in here that the elevations are all at 1/2 inch equals a foot. And up here at the top, the drawing scale is 1/2 inch equals a foot. Well, over here in the left corner, I have one enlarged floor plan that's a 1/4 inch equals a foot. I can have multiple scales on the same sheet. eTakeoff dimension doesn't care how many I have. And anything inside this blue line will be taken off at 1/4 inch equals a foot. Everything outside it will be taken off at 1/2 inch equals a foot. Also, if I come up here to the drawing tab, I can compare this to a new drawing. So if there happens to be a change, I can say add that, and I can say the drawing that I want to look for is this one. It's an addenda. I can click the align button, and I get this window here because a lot of times when I do get a change, it's not really tightly rotated right, or I need to move it slightly, or I need to scale it slightly. All of these things I can do before I compare the two drawings. I click OK when I'm done, and I can see down here that I have some general revisions, and up here I can see those revisions. I can also right-click and say, just show me, emphasize the new stuff. So then the red in the background is the old, the blue is the new, or I can show both of them. So very handy, it helps me see what has changed on the drawings. So that's what I wanted to show you on the drawings. If I scroll up here to the cover sheet. Now what I want to do is show you how we can transfer this information into Sage Estimating. To do that, I go here to the View tab, and I start Bridge. Bridge is that piece that bridges the information from the Takeoff into Sage Estimating. And so here we have it here. On the left-hand side are the resources. There are two types of resources that we see in this pane, either assemblies or items. In this case, these are assemblies that are in my Sage database. Bridge is reading my Sage database. And if I expand the concrete here, you can see these are all of my concrete assemblies. For those of you who aren't familiar with the term assembly in Sage, it is a collection of items that we group together to simplify Takeoff. A concrete slab is an assembly because it contains possibly excavation, forming, reinforcement, concrete, finishing, stripping, whatever else you wanted to have on that assembly. A wall is another great example of assembly because it contains the studs, plates, fill, extra studs at the corners and windows and other openings, maybe the drywall, the finish, paint even. Lots of things that you could include in a wall assembly. There's lots of assemblies that different contractors use, but they're very powerful. They are called smart assemblies because they not only calculate quantities, but they help us pick items from within our Sage database. More about that in a bit. The reason that I want to see my assemblies or items here in Bridge is because when I first set things up, I want to map them. So here I'm going to take a look down here at that structural plan that we looked at and zoom out, and I've got these structural slabs. For those structural slabs, I want to map them, and this is a one-time only thing that I need to do. I'm going to take this slab right here, and I'm going to drag it and drop it onto the assembly that I want to use in Sage Estimating to calculate quantities. You can see here in the middle, these are the questions that the Sage assembly wants to select the items and calculate the quantities. Over here on the right in the primary Takeoff window are all of the responses or variables that I have available from Takeoff. And so what I've done, you can see that these are colored, as are these over here. So what I did is map the area. I just drug this and dropped it like that. Same thing with the depth of gravel, just drag and drop, depth of sand, drag and drop, depth of concrete, drag and drop, and on down the line. I can also map WBS information. So you can see the description is mapped to the location. The alternates is mapped to alternate. Estimator is mapped over here, floor, and system as well. So these are all mapped The key here is once mapped, always mapped. I never need to map these again. This is just something I do during initial setup. I don't need to map these for the next project, for the next project's next week or next month or next year. I'm done mapping. Also, I can share these mappings with others in my company. Everybody does not need to do their own mappings. When I'm done, I can run the pass. And I can run a pass here, watch the quantities field now fill up here, and then I can click this green check here to send to the estimate. That is what we call manual takeoff. Manual takeoff is great, but it's not real quick. But I can also do automatic takeoff. To do that, I'm going to click the automatic button here. I've been through these measurements many times. I'm confident in the measurements that I have and in the way they're interacting with the assemblies. So I can send all of these automatic assignments to the estimate at one time by clicking this submit button right here. When I do that, it's going to submit all of those assignments to my estimate, and we're done. Now I'm going to close. So here we are in Sage Estimating. So my estimate is not complete yet. I need to do a few things to complete it. One of the things I can do is do more takeoff. So I'm going to go up here to the Takeoff tab, and I'm going to go to Item Takeoff to show you real quickly. These are just what we call group phases, which are a way of organizing items. Click here, and I've got temporary fence. Come over here to the right, and I say I need 2,000 feet of fencing. Press Enter. It enters that in there. And I click OK, and I've done takeoff. I can continue doing item takeoff. Quick takeoff is very similar. One-time item, I can create a one-time item that only works, only populates this estimate. It's not part of my database. I'm going to close this. I'm going to do assembly takeoff. And I can do assembly takeoff here. This is where we can see some real power. General conditions. I'm going to enter in these questions. So these 4 questions are going to generate quantities for these items down here in the bottom. So I can say number of months of duration. And we'll say we're really quick. I'm going to say 10 months. I need 6 months of temporary electrical, 4 months of temporary heat, and 4 months of temporary water. Watch the quantity list there in the bottom. As I press Enter, it calculates those quantities based on these 4 responses up here. I click OK, close this, and now I've got my temporary fence right here and my other general conditions items here as well. Takeoff is pretty easy, whether you do it through Dimension or through Sage Estimating. When you get it in here, you can do a lot of different sorting and slicing and dicing and rearranging things as you want. One of the ways we can do that is using what Sage calls sequences. Sequences are ways that we can group the rows. So we can take rows and we can group them in different ways. This is a phase item sequence. You can see that down here in the lower left corner. And so I have a group of 1,000 with general requirements. That's a group phase. And then a phase of 1,100 subcontractors. Here's another group phase of demolition, another one of site work. These are organized as old CSI divisions. I can also group it by assembly. And so I can look at it by assembly, and I can see that I've got an unassigned assembly. The temporary fence was taken off using a item, so I don't have an assembly there, but I can see by assembly what I've done. I can see by floor what I've done. There's the first floor. There's the second floor and the third floor and the non-floor and the roof. So I can group it that way. I can group it by alternates. There are some things that are not assigned to an alternate, but I've got alternate 1, alternate 2 in the base bid. So lots of ways that you can sort and slice and dice your estimate. That's rows, though. Layouts are columns. I can change the columns here any way I want as well. So I can say, I want to go this way. I want to look at just my labor productivity, or I want to look at just the materials. So I can sort and slice and dice that way as well. On my spreadsheet, there's lots of things that I can do. I don't need to just take this information for granted and just go for it. I can tweak it and customize it for each job. So my database of information contains default pricing and production rates and things like that. And then when I bring those items into an estimate, and then in the estimate I can tweak them or customize them for a particular job. So let's look at labor. Here's labor productivity. I can come in here and say, okay, here's let's look at excavate footing by machine. This says my labor productivity is 5 cubic yards an hour. That seems really low to me, so I'm going to change that to 20. Press enter. I have duplicate items on here. Do I want to change them? Yes. Both of these items here on line 27 and 28 got changed. It did not change my takeoff quantity. It did not change my labor hourly rate, but it did change my labor amount, changed the total, and it changed the cost per unit. If I said we can do 3 of these, now I've changed that to 3 cubic yards. This bumped up, this knocked down from 20 to 15. So I can change this, I can change any one of these around, these numbers around. My labor quantity doesn't change, my labor price doesn't change, but all of the others do, and I do not break formulas like I might in Excel. Everything is recalculated automatically. Let's go here to the totals page. So this is the important part, right? So my total right here, $3,048,000. I have a very simple totals page here with 2 of these things here. These are called add-ons. They are my overhead, profit, sales tax, things like that I am adding on to the cost of an estimate. There are lots of different ways that add-ons can be calculated. These are very simple, just 10% and 5% sales tax. If I said, you know what, I think I can go for 15% on this one, and now I've got, this has changed to $3,228,000. So I can change these things as I want to. Also, I can allocate add-ons here. And so when I print reports, I can push these numbers, this 484,000 and the 13,000, I can bury those inside my estimate. I probably wouldn't bury sales tax, so I'd check that off, but I certainly could bury my profit. And then I can save that, and then I can bury that into my estimate when I print reports so that my owner, GC, or whoever does not see my profit number. There's other things that I can do with this, and I'll show you now a couple here. If I wanted to start to work with this and say, you know what, one other thing I wanted to show you here is we can do some changes here. I'm going to say that the job size for this job is 50,000 square feet. And now it comes down here and it says it's $64.56 a square foot. Pretty darn good job. But we know that we need to be at 62 to be competitive. If I hit enter, I know that I need to find $128,256 to meet that goal of $62 a square foot. So now what I can do is I can go up here and I can start playing with things. I can say, you know what, I'm going to take this whole group of numbers here, and I'm going to adjust that column, and I'm going to adjust it down 5%. What does that do? Well, not a whole lot of good. I still need to find $125,000. The easy way to do it is to come over here to the amount column. I can do the adjust again, and I can just say, you know what, I don't have a lot of time, just spread that. Spread $125,000 across my whole estimate. Click OK, and it spreads that out over my whole estimate. Now, if I come here, if I mouse over it, it says it took everything down 3.89%, and the original was $29,002. It's now $28,065. So I've just adjusted it. Now I'm down to $3,000,001, and I'm within $1. So you can adjust your estimate quickly like that. I can also come back here and say, you know what, that is not going to work. So I'm going to undo the adjustment, and I am back where I started from. So you can play with the numbers as you want to. We can summarize things here. So I can collapse this down. So I just see the group and the phase, or I can collapse it down and I just see group phase, and I can see just the total numbers, total dollars for group phase. I can expand things back up. I can combine like items. So if I see several here, I can say I can combine them so I can just get one line item instead of 2 or 3 or 10 or however many you have. There's other things that I can do on the spreadsheet, but those are the main ones I want to show you today. We could also work with alternates in the system. And so if I go here to the alternate summary pane here, you can see that I have a base bid and a total here. But what I've got here is I've got a checkbox that says show excluded alternates. Remember on the second floor there, we had the resilient tile and the quarry tile. I've said no, I'm not accepting either of those, but I can start to play with these now. And I can say, well, you know, let's accept that one. Now then I've got 3,196 plus 19 is 3,216. So I can accept that one, or I can say not accepted and accept this one, and I can see what that does to my number as well. So I can start to play with the alternates as well. If I say show excluded alternates, and I click OK here and get out of this, now as I scroll here, and I'm going to change to an alternate sequence, even here. Now then, this is the one that's excluded, and it's marked as such on my spreadsheet. I can say do not show excluded alternates, and that goes away. So ways to work with alternates as well in your estimates. You can also print reports. There's lots of reports you can print. Doesn't look like a lot, but there's a lot of different ways to configure these. And so I'm going to go back here to the phase item sort, and I'm going to go to the spreadsheet, and I'm going to say that I just want to reprint options. I can pre-fill the spreadsheet, and then I can preview this. There's a title page, and here is my report. Basically, it's my spreadsheet. So looks pretty familiar. I can configure it many different ways. I can do different colors, and this button right here lets me export this out to Excel. I can export an estimate out to Excel where I get some of the formulas come along with it, and so I can then do either analysis or charting or whatever I wanted to do there. Cancel this. There's also more reports here, including a takeoff audit, standard estimate details, bill of materials reports, including quote sheet for sending out to others, as well as other bill of materials and a detail audit. The field report is something you could give to your crews so that they know what they need to do and how much time you've allotted them to do it. There's also other reports here, as you can see. So not only can you look at things on the screen, you can look at them in reports as well. We also offer a comparison and variance report. The comparison will compare up to 10 different estimates on one report. The variance report compares 2 different estimates on one report and then shows you the variance between those 2. I'll go ahead and create that report here. Got these 2 reports here to show. So here is my variance report number 1 and report number 2. I did include the takeoff quantity. So here's the takeoff quantity for each of those and the variance between them. One's 44 and 44 weeks, 35 weeks with a variance of 9. Also want to take a look here at the data tab. We've looked at some of these here. Don't let all of these buttons scare you. Sage Estimating has got a lot of features, and it can be very sophisticated. It can also be very simple. It is a very flexible system, whether you're a large contractor or a small, it can work for you. One of the things you need to do is build the data elements, the phases and the group phases that help organize items. Items are anything you can write a check for, and so it's an hour of labor, an hour of equipment time, or a 2x4, or a sheet of plywood, or a yard of concrete. Anything you can write a check for is an item. An assembly is a group of items, as we mentioned before, combined to simplify takeoff, a concrete slab, a stud wall, and on and on and on like that. Models we'll look at in just a minute. Models are a combination of items and assemblies that you group together to create very detailed estimates very quickly. Really powerful, and very powerful for people doing pre-construction or even pre-design kinds of estimates. We've got WBS codes that we can assign bill of materials and locations. We can build crews, so if you want to estimate your labor using a crew rather than a composite labor rate, you can do that. Formulas here, calculate quantities and things like that. Construction cost index to change the costs for a different city or location or owner. Add-ons are those profit and overhead and other things that we put on the bottom line. And then ways to update our database as well. There's a lot here, but again, it's very flexible. It can be as simple or as full-featured as you would like it to be. So how about this scenario? We've created the estimate. We've submitted the estimate, and everything looks good. And we've started construction. And partway through construction, the project manager comes in and says, hey, where did that number come from, and why did you put that in there? With some systems, you'd have to go back and recreate that number, and you might not know how you got it. I'm going to show you how we can do that in a couple clicks. I'm going to go here to the assembly view, and I'm going to say, here's the paving, asphalt paving by sub. You'll notice this little blue caret in the corner. If I take this and right-click, I can drill down to bridge. So I can drill down. It's going to open up bridge. It's going to say, here's the number that I entered. Also, here's the number I entered here in dimension. And in dimension, here's the measurement that it came from. So you've got some answers, and you can see just how quickly I was able to do that. Also, let's say something changed. Let's say, for example, that you now have to go all the way across the street on this. I'm going to take that over there, and that over there, that over there, and that one over there. Not real accurate, but you get the idea. I can change measurement information. I can change spec and detail information over here in the quantity list if I want to. So I can go through and I can make changes on any plan sheet I want to. And then what? Then I can come back here and I can start bridge again, and I see my assignment list. These are the assignments that were sent to that first version of the estimate. I can refresh this list by clicking this button right here. And now I see all of the changes as well as the existing ones. You can see this symbol right here. These are the unchanged assignments. There is my changed assignment right there at the top. I'm going to filter out and not show my unchanged ones. Here is my changed ones. It says, well, we went from 148,000 to 152,000 square feet. I can say, click this button, and it will apply the changes. Watch how this 16,514 become 16,982 square yards. I can say, submit that to the estimate, and then we can go to the estimate and see the change. There is the change number in Sage Estimating. So when I first showed you that PowerPoint diagram, it showed you the arrows going downstream from the takeoff through bridge and into the estimate. There, I just showed you the example of the arrows pointing upstream from the estimate back to the takeoff. That is the bidirectional data flow or drill down capability that we have from the estimate to the takeoff to help you see where information came from and also to make changes. So I mentioned that was one other last thing I wanted to show you was models. Models are a great feature of Sage Estimating that combine items and assemblies into one coherent package and allow you to really do some fun things with taking all of these off at one time. You can also include graphics, and you can include options and different display options. What I'd like to show you here is I've created another estimate, and I want to show you how you can do model takeoff. So here I'm going to select model takeoff, and I'm going to say that we just got some building shells. I'm going to do a tilt-up warehouse on spread footings. So here's my model, and I've entered in some of the specifications that I know about this model. You know, how long it is, how wide it is, and there's 10 bays, not 20. And so I've got this information that I've entered in here. And this is called the interview process. There's two pieces of the model generating process. First is the interview. And so this is all I have here. I've got maybe 10 or 15 questions. I click OK when I'm done. And I can close this interview. So now I've done my model takeoff, and I can do more than one model in an estimate. I go here, I click this button, and so I see this model here. I'm going to click this Generate button. I'm going to say, which model do you want to generate? I'm going to say that. I'm going to click OK. And it's going to go down. You can see that it generated assemblies and items very quickly. And here is my estimate. And so it's created all of these items. You can see I've got 187 different line items on this estimate. So very quickly, I can create an estimate by answering just a few questions. And it's using my data that I normally use every day. So I'm confident in the number. Look here at the totals, and I can see that I'm at $1.6 million at $21.87 a square foot. Again, I work really cheap. So models are something that you can use to create those estimates very quickly. So that's what I wanted to show you today. The product suite of eTakeoff Dimension, eTakeoff Bridge, and Sage Estimating is a very powerful suite. It's integrated, seamless, and dynamic, and will hopefully speed up your estimating process and make it more accurate, make you more confident in your numbers. And model estimating can help you if you need to create an estimate from just a few questions, like in the beginning of a project. So thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you in the future. Have a good day.